Good afternoon to you all, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, it's my pleasure to welcome all of you to today's webinar. My name is Cornelius Kakraba from the Global Shea Alliance, and I'll be your master of ceremony for today's webinar. We are in the month of July, and July is the month that we set aside every year as a Shea month. And our focus is to bring attention to parkland restoration and protection. And in this month of July, in the year 2024, our focus is to draw attention to the environmental threats facing Shea parklands. We also want to draw attention to the impact on Shea supply chain and the communities that depends on it. We are also focusing on how our members and the general public can contribute to parkland restoration efforts to combat and reverse these challenges. So this webinar really is part of the activities that we have scheduled for the month of July. And we are here with technical experts who will be sharing essential insights with us on how to set up and manage Shea nurseries. And we have with us this afternoon, as our technical experts, Dr. Peter Lovett. He is a co-founder of EcoRestore. We have Wombe Adam. He is the operations manager at EcoRestore. Collins Ezeruaku Nyozu. He is the chairman of Shea Integrated Global Foundation in Nigeria. And Brigitte Bastide from the National Center for Research and Scientific Technology located in Burkina Faso. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, you are welcome. And we want to start straight away with a presentation by Dr. Peter Lovett.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Dr. Peter Lovett, and I'm an Executive Director of Restore. And I'm here with my Operations Manager, Adam. And we'd like to talk today about best practices in Shea nursery establishment. So in terms of my background, I have a degree in biochemistry from Oxford, an MSc in forest management from Aberdeen, and I began my Shea journey in 1994 when I was working with Southampton University, and I was seconded to Cocoa Research Institute and sent to the station in Bole. During this 4 to 5 year work, I also completed my PhD on Shea genetics. And I've been doing various techniques of propagation, ranging from direct seeding, air layering, tissue culture, rooting stem cuttings, and grafting. My work has been characterized by many fruitful and successful projects across the whole of the Shea zone of West, Central, and East Africa, working in Burkina Faso, Ivory Coast, Mali, Uganda, Chad, South Sudan. I have done a lot of road miles through the Shea parklands of tropical Africa. I've also worked with many different organizations, ranging from ICRAF to CIRAD, Form International, and since 2019, I've been an executive director of EcoRestore, along with two other colleagues, Senyon Pele and Zachariah Isahaku, with our focus on restoring Shea trees and many other non-Shea species back into the parklands of northern Ghana. We'd like to tell you today all about the germination, collection, propagation, and raising of Shea seedlings. So in order to do so, I need you to understand the different stages of Shea germination. The first step is imbibation. The seed absorbs water, swells up, and begins the germination process. The first step that's visible is the radical emergence. The radical or the embryonic root emerges from the seed and grows downward. It is pleiotropic and it anchors the plant and then continues to absorb nutrients and water. And you'll see this happen as the seed cracks and this white, quite fragile root bends down into the soil. The next step that's visual is the shoot emergence. Now, this is a very interesting cryptogeal germination mechanism where the root goes down first, taking the pseudo plumule underground, and it might be up to 5 or 6 inches below ground. And this shoot won't come up until at least 6 to 8 weeks after the first shoot, the first root emerges. And then the first leaves will emerge looking for light. The first leaves, or the cotyledons, unfold and expand, beginning the process of photosynthesis. And typically with Shea, these early leaves are quite red. The redness is a protection against ultraviolet light, protecting these fragile young early leaves. And as the seedling grows, they will become more green, and we can see that that seedling has become well established. So you see here, we have the root shoot. This shoot bends down, goes into the ground, and then the first leaves shoot out, and then we have the green leaf, and following that, we will have to start root managing the seedling. This is a photograph taken by my friend and colleague, Dr. Francis Shimster. And these show the different steps in the germination. As you see, after 21 days, the root shoot has gone deep underground. And then after 28 days, so what are we looking about, 4 or 5 weeks, we get the shoot coming up from underground until you see those early shoots at about 5 or 6 weeks. These leaves grow bigger and darker green, and then we start to see more fibrous roots underground, the lateral roots, which we know then are busy absorbing nutrients and water. Now, the important thing to remember is we're growing back these trees into parklands. We need to be raising hundreds of thousands, if not millions of trees every year. So what you can see here is a couple of examples from our eco-restore nurseries. On the left side, you can see the leaves are pinkish, reddish. Those are early leaves. And on the right, you can see those leaves that become darker green. We cannot emphasize how different this is from a research station, which is only growing a few hundreds or thousands of seedlings. We are raising 200,000 seedlings in the coming year. And it is quite a different process in order to get these numbers, successfully develop them in terms of economic cost of all the stages. Getting the seed, getting the media, filling the pots, planting the pots, watering, shading, and maintaining these seedlings over at least 1 year, sometimes 2 years.
Taken into consideration is trees should not be harvested. So you bring the seeds in sack loads to the nursery, and I must state that you don't need to carry out any pre-treatment on these seeds before sowing is done. And then you bring the seeds, pour the seeds on the ground. Don't leave them in the sacks for days. Immediately the seeds are brought in sack loads to the nursery, they need to be poured into the ground, so they wouldn't get heated in the sacks, and then thereby you ending up losing some of the seeds to heat, or losing its viability to the heat the sacks may give to the seeds. So after bringing these seeds to the nursery, you wash them, you remove the pulp from the seeds, wash them very well, remove pulp from it, and then you prepare them towards sowing into your pots. And then in harvesting these seeds from the field, one thing that must be taken into consideration is trees should not be harvested forcefully from a tree. Seeds are collected from trees through natural falling of those seeds or fruits. Fruits must naturally fall from the trees, and then they will be harvested from the ground. Shaking trees to have fruits or seeds harvested is not recommended. as you may end up getting fruits that are not ready for growing in the nursery or sowing in the nursery for raising of seedlings. So we do not pick from trees. We allowed fruits that have fallen naturally to be picked, and then we make sure they are also ripe as well. When you are picking these seeds, you know those ones that are ripe and the ones that are not. So that must be taken into consideration. And we also encourage, or we advise women to pick from a diverse pool of trees in different areas, about 30 trees, for example, maybe within a landscape. We should take trees from different seeds from different trees within the landscape to ensure we have diversity among the share trees or share seeds. So that is one of the considerations we also take when harvesting or looking for seeds from the field. Yes, for nursery operations that involve handling significant volumes of share seeds, for example, a nursery that you are looking at raising 180,000 share seeds, you may be needing about 300 sacks of share seeds for that raising, and that is estimated at 6,000 share seeds per sack load. And in getting all these quantities of share seeds into the nursery, you need to do that carefully. And once the sack loads are in the nursery, you pour the seeds onto the ground. You don't need to leave them in the sacks, because the heat in the sack may affect the viability of the seeds you've brought through transport from different areas. So bringing the seeds to the nursery, once the seeds are in the nursery, you need to pour them onto the ground to make sure they have fresh air blowing over them. And in some instances, they can receive some rainwater whilst you are doing potting for 1 to 3 days. We are not advised, or it's not advisable for us to leave our seeds beyond 4 days in the nursery. You need to sow seeds that have been brought to the nursery from the first to the third day to make sure you get higher seedling germination or root shoots. When you leave it for more than 3 days, most of the seedlings are likely to lose their viability. Yes, so in the sowing process, seeds are surface planted or surface sown with the hilum side down. That means you have to push the hilum, that is the part that is a bit rough on the share seed. You push it into the soil, and then leaving part of the seed exposed to sunlight, maybe to help in um, um, higher or easy root shoots or germination. So in doing this, you don't need to push seed too deep into the soil. That will be difficult for you to monitor, especially for record keeping nurseries. For we at Eco Restore, we take records of the number of seeds that give root shoots, and these root shoots can only be identified with a crack on the back of the seed once the root shoots process is initiated. So this process is also recorded at each stage of the nursery as we monitor the stage of growth of the seeds throughout the process in the nursery. It is recommended that a pot size of 15 centimeters width by 20 centimeters depth is used, or 6 inches by 8 inches is used for share raising, as this raising process is going to take through a year in the nursery. Yes, so to re-emphasize on the process of preparing our fruits, you need to wash off the fruit pulp. You have to discard rotten seeds with broken roots, etc. Any seed that you think it's of a very light weight, and sometimes you feel it's the seed shaking in the shell of the seed, you realize that that is not a good seed for sowing. You look out for seeds that are very wet and heavy, as it will guarantee, or it will give you higher germination or shoots. So we discard all rotten or seeds that are broken, that have already shoot and it's already broken. You discard all those seeds and then make use of the heavy and very wet one. Another important thing we have to consider is our media. Our media should be well drained, sandy or topsoil, organic compost of about 20% or more. In instances you feel your topsoil is not good enough. So this is also an important consideration we have to take when raising share seeds. Our topsoil or our soil or media is something that is going to guarantee the health of our seedlings, since they are going to be raised all year round in the nursery. No herbicides, fungicides, insecticides are also advised to be used in the nursery, as we are encouraging to use good soil for our seed raising throughout the year. So we advise we do tending activities or weeding activities manually. We don't need to use any form of inorganic chemical, any form of chemical in the nursery, as it has a tendency of affecting seedling growth during the raising process. Yes, so we now look at the watering regime for shea seedlings. Well, while it is important to avoid overwatering, we also ensure that seedlings do not experience prolonged period of drought. You do not need to leave your seedlings without water for a very long time, as that is going to hinder the growth of the seedling. They may go into hibernation, or they may hibernate, and then that is going to really affect. So not giving it enough water is going to affect the rate of seedling growth, and that is going to affect how long you need to raise this seedling for growing for the next or the following year you are aiming to outplant these seedlings. And watering is also seasonal dependence. We water based on the season or the weather condition at a particular period. Um, as in usually in the dry season from November through March here in Ghana, we usually advise watering is done twice a day. That is a morning and evening to seedlings. But usually in the raining season, when we have rains, I don't think watering is um, done that much to seedlings, as they already receive natural rain water for its growth. And it's also advisable we use watering cans for the watering of these seedlings, as it ensures um, normal or proper water distribution to seedlings. It doesn't really give it enough pressure to push pots away, as some people may be using water hose for watering. That usually kicks off topsoil on the pots and maybe makes water filtration very difficult.
Thank you, Wumbi. A lot of experience he's now had in these nurseries, raising hundreds and hundreds of thousands of shea seedlings, ready for planting out the next year or ready for grafting and potentially keeping in the nursery for 2 years. The quality of the media is very important. But let's have a look at the conditions we need to be keeping these seedlings in. We do all sorts of operations in the nurseries. We do root management. We do shifting the pots around. We're counting the seedlings. And in order to be able to work during the dry season when the sun is intense and the humidity levels are low, we employ using shade netting, and we recommend using 50 to 55% irradiance. So that's the amount of sunlight that will come through the shade netting. And the problem we have with the shade netting is that when we get these end of dry season storms, the early rainy season storms, or even the storms at the end of the rainy season prior to the dry season, we have to make sure that our structures are firm, our shade net is well attached, and that it doesn't have tear points. These storms, I can't overemphasize how costly they can be when all your shade net is ripped off and your structures are destroyed. We are even looking for ideas that we can have a more stable shade netting structure. We're looking at these tunnel ideas. And if anybody has any research ideas, we welcome them. We have watched storms that literally destroy entire warehouses, and so it is quite a critical issue. If you have problems with the storms and you keep losing your shade netting, do not panic. You just have to keep watering morning and evening. And when you're doing root management, we like to do leaf pruning before in order to reduce the levels of photosynthesis. Root management is one critical aspect of managing shea seedling growth. And in our nursery, we emphasize the promotion of lateral root growth to enhance nutrient uptake and anchorage. So ideally, as you're sending these seedlings out to be planted in the parklands, that pot should be full of roots without a long vertical root that has gone deep in the soil. So we recommend doing multiple root managements. We will do this at the end of the rains, before the rains finish, when the leaves are nice and green, and we'll move the pots around. We will trim the roots that have gone into the soil, and we'll make sure all our beds are tidy and only contain live seedlings. And this is then repeated about 4 to 5 weeks before you're out planting, because the root pruning stimulates root formation. And so we root prune a second time at the beginning of the rains, and then we harden up the seedlings by removing shade, reducing the watering, and then we can transport those seedlings safely into the holding nurseries, and the farmers can come and collect to be planted on their farms. These are some number examples. These are real numbers. We have had 4 active nurseries in the 2024 season: Wali Wali, Nakpaya, Fio East and Chama. And as you can see, we sowed over 168,000 seedlings. Out of this, more than 141,000 shooted roots. Then the leaf shoot, the green leaf, the first root pruning. We check on the first survival, second survival, and we are moving these seedlings around, trimming their roots, making sure that they are a good pot bound, not root bound seedling in the nursery, and easy to transport and easy for the farmer to take a healthy seedling to his farm for planting. Now, what we see in some of the numbers is we're getting very high germination rates, but then we are losing seedlings through the shooting stage. We are talking to Cocoa Research Institute Ghana to see what they think we can do to improve this, because of course these are all costs for a large-scale nursery. We've been worried about the use of herbicides in the soils we're collecting. We've been worried about some of our watering regimes when the borehole pump fails, for example. So we are on average getting about 38 to 40% of seedlings out of the entire amount sown. This is quite a poor percentage. So everybody who has recommendations how we can improve this, please share. We need to plant back millions upon millions of shea trees. As I mentioned that just now, we are emphasizing getting a strong seedling ready for transport. We need to have them well arranged in our transport so they don't get damaged, they don't get beaten by the wind if we're driving fast in a lorry. And we make sure that those seedlings already have a place they can arrive at. We call these holding nurseries, where in each community we have a safe place that they can be protected from livestock, they can be watered and shaded to help them recover from the stress of transporting from the main nurseries. In terms of planting, timing is quite critical. We work very closely with the tree farmers who will decide when the rains have been enough for ploughing and think that it's a good time for taking a tree seedling and planting alongside their crops. So we have to watch this weather. We've had an extreme heat wave for the last few months in northern Ghana. It's set our planting program back weeks. But now the rains have come in July, and as you all aware, it is the month of Shea. So in July has become our key point of planting in the season. We do need to get these trees planted as quickly as possible, because if we wait too long, they won't have got their roots established and be a healthy growing young tree before the floods and then before the dry season. So the earlier you can get them in, the better, but they have to go in with the rains. I hope that we've answered all your queries. If you have any other, please feel free to ask us. We're also available online at LinkedIn. We are just getting our new.
Stop it. All right, thank you, Dr. Lovett and Wumbe, for that practical insight into nursery setup and management. Very detailed and quite technical at a point. But thanks all the same for that. We move on straight into the next segment of the program. We're going to be having a very short dialogue with our technical experts. And the idea is to tease out from the presentation some of the key things that were mentioned, and also to bring to bear some practicalities on the ground from implementation by our other technical experts. We still have with us Collins, Brigitte, Peter, and Wombe. So if we are ready, we're going to dive straight into the dialogue, and I want to start with Collins. All right, so Collins, if you can hear us, we understand you've just replicated a similar nursery structure like the ones under the Ghana Shea Landscape Emission Reduction Project in Nasarawa State in Nigeria. Could you tell us about the process that you went through for the replication, and then the challenges you faced and how you tackled them? Collins.
Thank you so much, Cornelius. That was a wonderful presentation. And I must say that this was why we came to Ghana in the first place. So to replicate the nursery, we wanted to know how it was done. We wanted to have success stories. And having looked at what was available in Niger State, we thought that, okay, the program that was running in Ghana, we should also come and see. And we had that time of interaction at the partner learning session. With that said, when we got back, the first challenge we faced was translation of information. So what we learned and what we were trying to translate to the community, because of experience and limited experience, we had that challenge. So there was a lot of back and forth, testing, in picking out seedlings. And I can assure you, we lost seedlings because we had seedlings in sacks for days, while discussing what next to do. So the urgency of pick your seeds, process them, make sure they have air and all of that. We missed out on some of those tracks. So one of the things that we learned quickly was to just document our process, just have the standard operating procedures, which was simple. And I think portions of it were published by the GSA. So just take the steps down. No need to reinvent what is already working. The second part of it was the location where we chose to start up our nursery. Was also what we thought initially that we were doing a good job by siting it close to the waterfront to take advantage of the riverside when it comes to watering. But we didn't take cognizance of the fact that that was also a high traffic area for animals. So by the time we had any bit of growth, we had animals rummaging through, herds of cattle rummaging through and, damaging what we had done. So technically that entire effort was lost. So two things we learned quickly: pick a right location, a secure location, and secure not necessarily that is fenced, even though what we've done now is to do a bit of barrier fencing, small wire mesh with wood in some areas to carve out where we're putting our seedlings. Secondly was to ensure that the steps that we learned, we followed them to the T, right? We followed them to the T. So for the latter, which is following the steps, one of the challenges also is that ensuring that you have strong supervision. Because if people haven't done something before, the tendency of doing them the way you want it to be done is, especially if you're involving the community. And ours is purely a community-based project, and this pilot is being run in the community. You need strong supervision until ownership comes in. So those are some of the initial challenges that we faced. But here's what it is: with continuous discussion with the community heads, because there are gatekeepers in every community we go into. We find that there are gatekeepers. So continuous engagement of the community heads. What they're doing now that it is the season, the Shea season, is they themselves are also mobilizing to support the women we're working with in the entire process, right? In the entire process, while we also will deploy people to the field. So those are basically how we have experienced it so far. So it's not been rosy, but it's something that we believe is worth doing.
Thank you, Collins. I have a follow-up question for you. Is there anything you believe we can do to encourage more nursery establishment in your region, better still in your state in Nigeria?
Yes, I think so. I believe so. I think it will help us if we had support and technical support, really. I know that we came down, we did a bit of learning, we took videos, we took notes, but having boots on the ground is also something that we would love to have. Wouldn't mind, inviting Lovett or someone from the team to come down and show us, see what we're doing, tell us what we could improve. And from time to time, even if after the initial boots on ground, we could have virtual engagement. But I think that would help. That way, it makes it easier. We can now become those who pass the trainings across, right? Since we're on ground, it will not have to be importing, technically speaking, importing you from Ghana, but that would help.
Thank you, Collins. I will come back to you. Let me move straight to Bridget. Bridget, if you can hear me, you have lots of experience when it comes to developing reforestation solutions for communities. Would you be able to tell us these solutions with regards to nurseries, seedlings, and business, etc., and how to choose the most suitable one? Bridget?
Oui, j'espère que vous m'entendez. Bon, je vous remercie beaucoup de m'avoir invité parce que, bon, j'ai suivi très attentivement la communication de Peter, que je connais depuis très longtemps. Et bon, dans nous, au niveau des vraies techniques, on a eu plus.
Okay, we seems to be. Hello, Bridget. Bridget, can you hear us? Okay, so whilst we wait for her to reconnect, let me move back to Wumbe. Wumbe, so you took us through a very practical process of nursery establishment and then the setup process itself. It sounds a bit technical. So let's say ordinary people, laymen who are listening online, would you be able to tell us in very plain terms, what are the key requirements, the key things that need to be looked out for when establishing or about to establish a nursery? Wumbe.
Okay. Thank you very much, Cornelius. I think to establish a nursery in a plain language or understanding, there are a lot of considerations that we need to take, and some of which are access to good water source. You have to make sure your nursery is closer to a good water source. Actually, that is one of the main factors, because in the dry season, you may be needing more water for the nursery. And then also, you have to consider the microclimate of the area where the nursery is being set up. You shouldn't go to where you don't have trees around. It shouldn't be a bare land without any vegetation cover that could provide a bit of a shade to the seedlings you'll be raising in the nursery. even when you don't have shade nets. And then also you have to consider the topography, that is the nature of the land. The land shouldn't be too slopey. It should be a bit of a leveled ground. So as you could have a good structure being established, and then all your pots are well arranged without any difficulty. And then you also have to consider the space. For example, for a shared nursery, you need enough space. You need enough space to move seedlings around the nursery. When you are taking them through root management, root pruning, you have to move them from one area to another. So you have to consider the spacing in the nursery. You should have enough space to raise your seedlings. And then the fencing, you should have good protection. That is, you should have a well-established fencing. So as animals or other herbivores should not be able to get your seedlings. So these are some of the few things you need to consider. This may not be all, but these are the things I can see of it. And then there are a lot of things you need to avoid as well. You have to avoid areas that may be flooded. You should make sure your nursery will not be flooded in any given heavy downpour or any form of situation. Your nursery shouldn't be flooded. And also, Collins spoke about some few of the items. I wouldn't say maybe you need a lot of the technical expertise. I think we have to keep trying. A lot of these nursery processes are just experiments we are trying out. So once you try out, you document, just like you said, you make sure you put them into writing and you see what you can do differently to achieve greater results. So I think those are the few things I can mention. If in case I get more to mention, I'll draw your attention to that. Thank you.
Very well. Thank you, Mwumbe. We'll come back to you pretty soon. I would like to urge all the panelists to put on their camera. We want it to be interactive and it will be good for us to see your faces if you don't mind. So please, Wumbe, yes, I can see Wumbe. Collins, if you can hear me, do same as well. And then Dr. Lovett. Bridget, if you are back also, please make sure your camera is on. Let me move straight to Dr. Lovett. Doc, we know that at Eco Restore, there is a plan to mainstream regenerative practices and also to professionalize, so to say, the seedlings procurement sector. Can you share with us how private sector companies such as yours have contributed to the acceleration of efforts that is needed to achieve action for Shea Parkland goals, which we are targeting to restore 4 million hectares? Would you be able to share some insight with us with respect to mainstreaming the process?
Thank you very much. Thank you for the opportunity to talk with everybody, and greetings to everybody. Yes, Eco Restore was founded by businessmen. My colleague Senor Pelli and Dr. Isahaku Zachariah, myself, my wife, lots of friends and family have been watching this landscape get heavily degraded over the last 10, 20, 30 years. And it is not that Shea is a threat, it's the mechanisms of what is going on. Other businesses, namely agriculture, has been modernizing. We're bringing in the big machines, we're bringing in the synthetic fertilizers, we're bringing in the inorganic pesticides. So we have not really seen successful initiatives that rely on charity, on handouts, on grants. Tree planting across the whole of Africa has not done well when it is in the hands of NGOs. Not really at the scale that we have seen happening when we have professional forestry, well-trained foresters doing scaled up nurseries, well-equipped, the infrastructure, the trained staff, people who have got degrees and experience in the field. So we looked at this situation and we realized that the uptake of growing indigenous trees was being approached in a different manner than we thought it should be. We realized that we need to find a business case for community farmers, for what we now call tree farmers, And the business case is restoring your soils. We need to fix the soils so we can improve food security, and we need to be able to provide the services that deliver those results. I mean, if you look at a company like MTN, for example, communications, they provide incredible services across large swathes of Africa. They've put a lot of investment into towers, but we have to pay for it. They then grow, their shareholders make money, they are bankable, they're investable, and then we have a scalable situation. We can be looking at other NBS, nature-based solutions, carbon trading, biodiversity credits, and we can develop sustainable incomes into programs that restore landscapes. And in this way, we can achieve the sort of numbers you're talking about. If you look at the cocoa industry, I mean, cocoa research, Cocoa Board alone in Ghana are raising 40, 50 million cocoa seedlings and planting them a year. But they're doing this through professional nurseries. They're doing it through service providers who can individually raise quality seedlings and deliver to them farmers effectively and get them well planted and established in the cocoa plantations. Can we replicate that in the Shea industry? Shea covers 350 million hectares, 21 countries. We have a huge job to do. And I think we have to use all our tools in the toolbox, whether it is a charity, an NGO, or whether it is a professional forestry operation. And in that respect, I think we have a good opportunity for companies like EcoRestore to develop this and fix the problems we are facing. Thank you.
Thank you, Doc. Thank you, Mr. Lovett. Do we have Bridget with us back? If you are online, Bridget, would you want to take up the previous question I put across to you?
Ah, je m'excuse, je n'ai pas entendu la question. Je suis désolée, je n'ai pas entendu la question.
Okay, so let me try repeating the question. We know that you've had lots of experience in developing reforestation solutions for communities. We want you to tell us about these solutions, particularly with relations to nurseries, seedlings, and business, etc., and how to choose the most suitable one.
Bon, je pense que je suis là cette fois-ci. Bon, on a effectivement une expérience sur plusieurs techniques avec les productrices de karité. On a donc certaines techniques ont été testées sur un financement de la Banque mondiale. Donc, et on a retenu pour enseigner les techniques qui apportaient plus de 30% d'amélioration au peuplement. Donc, celle que l'on a formée, c'est, bon, évidemment, le semis de pépinière, c'est l'implantation des semis directs au champ, et en particulier des semis directs dans les buissons, qui sont des semis directs, mais spécifiquement dans des buissons de façon à ce que les racines maintiennent de l'humidité pour les graines et l'appareil aérien protège les plantules du bétail. On a aussi la régénération naturelle assistée et principalement la protection et l'élevage des jeunes plants, parce que c'est pas tout de planter des karités, mais si on les protège pas contre le bétail, il y aura plus rien. Les chèvres sont très gourmandes. Donc voilà, à l'issue de ça, on a formé donc de 2014 en 2018 plus de 4000 productrices sur 3 financements au Burkina Faso. Alors, en 2021, on a pu faire une évaluation des semis et des plantations qui ont été faites en 2016 dans le tuile Kénidougou. Donc, on a un retour de 5 ans par rapport aux résultats des techniques et à l'adoption. Vous m'entendez? Allô?
Yes, we can hear you, Madame Brigitte.
Ah, vous m'entendez, d'accord. Quand il n'y a pas de réaction, je pose la question. Bon, donc, l'évaluation des taux de survie. Alors, pour les semis, en particulier les semis directs, on obtient 22% de survie au bout de 5 ans. Pour les plantations, on obtient 36% de résultats au bout de 5 ans aussi. Bon, pour les taux d'adoption, là, pour la pépinière, on a 20% de taux d'adoption. Donc, on a 2 villages sur 10 qui, 5 ans après, continuaient à faire leur pépinière sans notre appui, hein, d'eux-mêmes, livrés à eux-mêmes. Mais la cause de l'arrêt des autres, c'est vraiment un manque de disponibilité de l'eau. Parce que, comme on dit le prédécesseur, la disponibilité de l'eau, c'est quelque chose de fondamental pour le fonctionnement de la pépinière. Or, parfois, bon, le cours d'eau, c'est vrai, ça ne marche pas puisque c'est un accès du bétail. Les puits et les forages, même au niveau de la pépinière, ne marchent pas tout le temps parce qu'en saison sèche, ils sont parfois à sec. Donc, il faut ramener de l'eau d'une certaine distance et les femmes, ça vraiment, ça les fatigue. Parce que quand il faut ramener de l'eau pour venir arroser une pépinière, elles ne sont pas motivées parce qu'en plus, il faut payer l'eau pour arroser. Parce que les puits et les forages dans les villages sont pour l'alimentation humaine, pour le bétail et aussi éventuellement pour nos petites pépinières. Donc, ça a souvent abouti à l'échec de la pépinière. Une autre cause, c'est le manque d'accompagnement. Et là, il n'a pas été insisté assez parce que, bon, effectivement, lorsqu'il s'agit du privé, on continue à appuyer les populations pour continuer à diffuser les techniques et à adopter. Mais dans notre cas, on est un organisme de recherche, on compte sur les financements, on a parfois des financements qui étaient prévus sur 3 ans et qui finalement s'arrêtent au bout d'1 an. Donc, pour nous, mais pour les populations aussi. Donc, je pense qu'il y a un problème d'accompagnement, en particulier au niveau des pépinières, ce n'est pas fait par le privé. Alors, les taux d'adoption des autres techniques, bon, vous allez quand même être surpris. La RNA, il n'y a aucune adoption au bout de 5 ans. Aucun adoptant, personne n'a utilisé la technique dans son champ ou dans des forêts. À cause justement des difficultés pour protéger, puisque il faut protéger par des dispositifs comme du grillage et c'est cher, ou par des épineux, et là, les populations ont peur des forestiers. La plantation, 3% d'adoption. C'est-à-dire parmi les populations il n'y a que 3% qui ont continué à planter. Voilà. Pourquoi? À cause de 2 raisons. La pénibilité du travail quand il faut planter, parce que creuser des trous de plantation pour des populations, c'est souvent pénible. Et en plus, ça se fait pendant les travaux champêtres. Donc, il y a une concurrence dans le temps. Après les plantations, il faut aussi les arroser et les protéger du bétail. L'autre problème lié aux plantations est le coût des plants. Pour planter en karité, il y a deux solutions. Pour avoir la plantule, il y a deux solutions. Ou il faut le produire en pépinière, et on vient de voir tous les problèmes que les populations rencontrent, ou il faut les acheter. Et là aussi, c'est cher. Parce que les plants de karité, ce n'est pas donné. Hein. Je ne sais pas au Ghana, mais au Burkina, c'est cher. Et donc, il faudrait que les sociétés privées ou les réseaux ou les unions achètent les plants pour les femmes. Si elles ne les ont pas, elles ne vont pas le planter. Pour les semis, bon, c'est le problème de la protection contre les rongeurs, parce que les rongeurs déterrent les graines de karité et après mangent les plantules. Alors que ça semblait être quelque chose de très facile et de gratuit, quoi, même, je dirais. La RNA, bon, c'est l'indisponibilité des ligneux. Alors, les autres difficultés qui se sont posées sont liées à l'endroit indiqué pour planter. Pour planter dans les champs, planter, semer dans les champs, le problème est lié au fait qu'il y a déjà des concurrences entre les houppiers et les cultures. Et donc, très peu de femmes sont prêtes à aller augmenter la concurrence entre arboriculture dans les champs ou dans les jachères. Les propriétaires des champs ne sont pas intéressés non plus, et les non-propriétaires, ils n'ont pas le droit de planter. Voilà. Dans les formations naturelles, où ça pourrait très bien marcher, parce que c'est le choix des femmes, le problème qui se pose après, c'est à qui appartiendront les fruits qui seront produits par ces arbres lorsqu'ils vont produire. Normalement, les forêts au Burkina sont propriété de l'État, dont les arbres seront propriété de l'État et plus des femmes qui les ont plantés. Et là, ça pose un problème par rapport à la loi. Il y a aussi d'autres aspects fonciers qui font que souvent les chefs de village et les chefs de terre attribuent des parcelles aux productrices de karité qui sont en groupement. Mais ce sont des accords oraux. Et donc, ils ne tiennent pas. Il faudrait vraiment une intervention de façon à ce que ce soit des chartes vraiment écrites ou au moins des PV de palabres qui assurent aux femmes que les karités qu'elles vont planter seront pour elles ensuite. Parce qu'on a vu des villages où elles ont planté, où elles ont semé, ça marchait bien, et puis le chef a retiré la parcelle. Donc ça les décourage beaucoup. Ce que je dis, il y a un problème d'accompagnement et un problème d'accompagnement financier et matériel aussi après le projet. Parce que nous, on a un système de formation sur 3 ans. La première, on forme des femmes relais à toutes ces techniques. La deuxième année, ces femmes vont en former d'autres et on fait l'évaluation. Et la troisième année, on les laisse faire toutes seules et on vérifie si ça va. Mais jusqu'ici, il n'y a qu'un seul cas où on a eu un financement sur 3 années. Les autres fois, c'était une seule année. Ça ne va pas. Pour le système de formation, ça ne va pas. Et pour les populations, ça ne va pas non plus. Parce qu'après, elles se sentent complètement abandonnées aussi. Elles n'ont pas l'argent pour continuer leur pot de pépinière. Elles n'ont pas l'argent pour arroser leurs plants. Elles n'ont pas l'argent pour acheter d'autres plants. Donc, il y a un problème d'accompagnement financier et matériel lorsqu'il ne s'agit pas du privé, je dirais. Alors, les critères qu'on avait choisis pour sélectionner la solution la plus adaptée, dans un premier temps, c'était les aspects financiers, dont le prix de revient de la technique. On a tout fait pour utiliser du matériel disponible dans les villages. Mais comme on voit, en particulier pour les pépinières, ça ne suffit pas. Puisqu'il faut des forages, il faut souvent des grillages pour protéger, il faut payer des pots. Donc là, c'est un aspect financier qui peut poser un problème à cette technique-là. On a des techniques de greffage aussi. Bon, ce n'est pas la régénération, mais le greffage coûte souvent cher également. Voilà. Ensuite, donc, on avait dit des techniques qui ne sont pas chères, premièrement. Deuxièmement, les aspects sociaux, c'est-à-dire des aspects qui demandent un temps de travail, une pénibilité de travail réduit. Parce qu'en plus, on a souvent un chevauchement avec les autres activités, en particulier champêtres, qui posent problème. Et on pensait qu'il y avait un troisième aspect qui devait être les taux de survie. Mais comme vous avez pu le voir, avec un taux de survie de 36%, les plantations sont quand même que très peu adoptées et très peu diffusées. Ça, c'est parce que là, il y a les deux autres facteurs qui interviennent, l'aspect financier et le chevauchement avec d'autres activités, en particulier champêtres. Donc, on en revient au fait que ceux qui, hélas, le premier aspect qui retient les femmes, c'est l'aspect financier. Si ça ne coûte pas cher, ça continue, mais si ça coûte cher, on ne peut pas parce qu'il n'y a pas d'accompagnement. Bon, j'espère que vous avez entendu, j'espère que vous avez compris. Bon, je vous écoute.
Very well. Very well. Thank you, Madam Brigitte. We really appreciate that. That's virtually a presentation you've given us. Thanks so much for that insightful and detailed explanation as well as presentation. We should be wrapping up, but then we have room for a few questions in the next 5-10 minutes. We should be closing. So please, if you have a question, you can drop it on the chat box or you raise up your hands and I will invite you to ask your question.
J'entends rien du tout.
Can you hear me, Madame Brigitte? Okay, so if you can hear me. All right,
Oui.
so we will proceed from there. Right, so
Oui.
a couple of questions have come through, but whilst we wait for more questions, let me bring in Wombe quickly. In your wrapping statement, would you want to tell us if an individual is going into nursery establishment, an individual, what must he or she do in your closing statement? Wombe.
All right, thank you, Collins. Oh, sorry. For individuals, I think one thing that needs to be taken into consideration is the quantity of seedlings you intend to raise. If you consider that, that will determine the size of a nursery you'll be establishing. And aside considering the quantity, you should know a Shea nursery will involve a lot of attention. You need to give it attention. You need to be in the nursery on a daily basis, depending on the season and depending on what needs to be done to your seedlings. For example, in the dry season, as I said, we need to make sure watering is done in the morning and evening to make sure your seedlings don't die. So that would depend on the quantity of seedlings you will intend to raise. And then I would only say more attention needs to be given to your seedlings you want to raise. In terms of protection, in terms of seedling care, and all sorts of activities within the nursery. But I must state that there's one thing I needed to emphasize on with regards to Shea seedling raising. we need to always engage the women who are into the Shea seeds collection. They will help us get good seeds for the raising of these seedlings. They know the trees that are very good in terms of yield stability. That is how the trees fruits all year round, or on a year basis, how the trees fruits. These women will guide us to get it. The how sweet the fruit is, the women will get us that. And then also maybe the fat contents, some extent they may be able to help us get that. So in setting up a nursery as an individual or on a larger scale, I think we need to work with these women share collectors. They are the experts at the community level with regards to good share seeds for share raising. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Umber. We should work with women share collectors. If you have dropped your question in the chat box, happy to say that Dr. Lovett is responding to most of the questions over there. Thank you so much, Doc. Let me bring in Collins. Collins, are you still with us? If you're with us, tell us, you probably are among some of the few individuals in Nigeria who are into nursery establishment. Moving forward, how do we get more individuals to undertake nursery establishment? Collins.
Okay, I think Dr. Lovett got it right when he said this has to be approached as a business. We are not approaching it as something we love. Yes, we love the environment, we love the world, we want to see that there's huge carbon sink and all of that, but really what is driving it is the business. So we're doing it on a sustainability part. If you want to get this right and you want more people to get it, then programs need to be designed around livelihood sustainability. So from those getting involved, they can see where their money comes out at the end of the day. And the women who are doing it also see how it improves their livelihoods. Otherwise, it'll be a project. The project is not what we need, because these things take long. You need a program. That means it's going to continue for a long time. So it has to be commercial. That's the success of it. So any discussions we're having with members or having with people, it's like, okay, look, if you do this, then this is what you would benefit. In the short term, perhaps you're benefiting from carbon sequestration, you want to do carbon trades. In the long term, you know what the yield per tree is, and then you have an offtake market, for whatever you're taking. For us is that we're securing our value chain, our supply chains for the future, right? By ensuring that whatever trees are being cut, and some of the trees are probably getting old, we don't know how old they are, how many years they're going to be there. So we just need to ensure that we continue to produce share, at least beyond this first generation level of our business. So that's my take on what would drive the tree planting, even if beyond share. Thank you.
Thank you, Collins. Let me bring in Dr. Lovett quickly. Beyond the contributions by current private sector companies involved in the action for Shea Parklands, what do you think we should be doing to attract more of such private companies?
Sorry, I was on mute. Thank you. We need to have a business case. If you're an investor, how are you going to make money? And we need to be looking at ways that communities can scale up their livelihood options, and investors can come in providing the products that they need to do that. Whether it's providing tree seedlings, whether it's providing organic compost, whether it's that the communities develop nature-based solutions and can be able to sell their trees, the carbon in the soils, for carbon credits. There are a growing number of schemes around the world where the community farmers are being put first. And EcoRestore is busy looking at those opportunities. What is it we need to do to get communities, the farmers, ready for this investment? We have quite a lot of issues. Bridget raised the biggest problem for African tree farmers is that the state, its colonial legacy, I'm really sorry, but we have to fix this. The state is owning the natural resources. In Ghana, the state owns all naturally regenerated indigenous trees by default, whether they're timber trees in the rainforest or whether they are trees growing on open parklands. And this needs to be fixed. You can theoretically register your trees, whether they're planted or they're naturally regenerated, if you can prove that it's your land, you are managing those trees. But we're well aware of the capability of many of our farmers in being literate, being able to access digital systems, form filling, etc. But there are growing opportunities like this, and I believe we need an international, regional, national dialogues to look at the Shea parklands and what the impact of ownership is having. If we can get the ownership securely into the hands of the community farmers, they then can securely plant their trees and look after them. They can make their own decisions. And if there are products to sell from those trees, such as shea nuts or baobab leaves, they can sell them. They can also sell the carbon credits. And it may be then that we need businesses who help them get organized in order to get through those incredible tasks to get registered and access carbon credits and other MBS solutions. So that's the way that I think we should be thinking. But if we can't achieve clear ownership of community lands and trees, then I will behave just like a local farmer, and I won't bother, because I'm not going to do work on something I cannot own. And no investor is going to come in and trade with me if I can't prove that I own it. So I think you can see the sort of challenge that we need to address in order to encourage investment into these restoration of the parklands. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Doug. So in summary, we need a well thought out business case and to approach the entire enterprise as a business. Thanks a lot for that. I'm going to give Madame Brigitte the very final words, and then we will wrap up on this. Madame Brigitte, what are your final words for us today?
D'abord, je vous remercie beaucoup de m'avoir associé. C'est vrai que les problèmes de pépinière sont effectivement des paupières que même nous-mêmes, au niveau simplement à une autre échelle, au niveau des populations, nous trouvons. Je trouve qu'effectivement faire ça sous forme finalement de société plutôt que de projet, c'est une très bonne idée. Mais il faut surtout impliquer les populations le plus possible. Parce que si on n'implique pas les populations du début jusqu'à la fin, je pense que ça ne marchera pas. Voilà. Mais je pense qu'il faut tenter de tout parce que faire des plantations en très grande quantité, ben, il y a un problème foncier. Donc, faire des pépinières, oui, mais comment faire après avec les arbres qui seront produits? Voilà. Ah, je pense que c'est tout. Allô?
All right, thank you very much.
Ah non, mais moi, je n'entends plus rien.
Okay, can you hear me now?
J'entends rien.
Thank you so much.
Oui.
Thanks a lot, Madame Brigitte. We appreciate your final words for us today.
Mais j'ai vraiment beaucoup apprécié. J'aimerais bien visiter cette pépinière de Peter et de Colline. Voilà.
Thank you so much, Madame Brigitte. Thanks a lot. Once again, thank you to each and every one of you who managed to join us for today's webinar. It's been a very insightful and detailed one indeed. And just to remind all of us, this is the first of the many webinars that we have planned for the month of July. And come on the 23rd of July, we have another exciting webinar coming off. It's going to be a policy dialogue for effective landscape restoration, national carbon policies, Ghana, Benin, and Burkina Faso. So if you want to learn more about the carbon policies across these countries, please make sure you get details of that webinar, which is coming off on the 23rd of July. You would want to follow our social media handles for more details about that. It's going to be very exciting, I can promise you. If you've been hearing about carbon credits every now and then, but you don't know the policies that have been put in place, this is a forum for you to attend. You don't have to miss this one. We look forward to hosting you again on the 23rd of July. Thank you all for joining us. And we say, be part of the Shea month of July. God bless you. See you again next time.